Hello everybody and welcome to another video. So today there's been a fair bit of news going on over the week. I wanted to keep you guys caught up, including two pretty huge things. First of all, the ability now to join the closed beta for Heart of Thorns, which we'll talk about very soon. And also, we did have the World Tournament Series Finals. This is the big PvP tournament that I believe runs 3 times annually. Is that how it works? And the finals were today. There were PvP streams going on all day. There were massive buffs for anybody playing Guild Wars 2 to actually go do their own PvP today also. And I guess I'll talk about the results of that a little bit with a bit of a spoiler warning later on in the video. So, first of all, let's have a look at the new World vs. World Borderlands teaser that was revealed. Now, we didn't just have the World Tournament Series Finals and the games taking place there at PAX East, but they also gave us an exhibition match of the new game type Stronghold, which seemed to be reasonably well taken. The game just ran on and on and on, in my opinion, which wasn't exactly ideal, but that was pretty interesting to see. And then they did, of course, also show us the new World vs. World Borderlands. This is the first time we've ever seen this. Now, the story so far is that at PAX South, when Heart of Thorns was announced, they did tell us that there would be a new World vs. World Borderlands, and when Colin came on stage, he did also talk about the fact that there would be core changes to the World vs. World experience that incentivize defending locations. I've seen some negativity, you know, as the internet goes. There's been a negativity from people saying, oh, this just looks like a new map, and comparing it a lot to Edge of the Mist and saying that it may not actually make World vs. World super fun. Well, do remember also what we may be seeing in this trailer I'm about to run through with you guys isn't necessarily the whole story, okay? Like, it's not explaining all of the features, it's not explaining the mechanics of the way this map works, it's just a fly-through. Now, at PAX South, with the initial announcement, we did see a couple of things that seem to be relating to the new map. We saw, like, the giant Ratassoon style thing floating in the sky and so forth, but beyond that, we didn't see too much. Well, now we've got our next trailer, and in, like, less than a week now, I suppose, they're gonna have a full-on panel talking about the new map, talking about World vs. World in general, and how all of that stuff's going to work. So at least this is our teaser. I wanted to run through it with you guys here. So here we can see Cameron Reed, who hosted a lot of the stuff, and they're going to roll in. I guess I'll pause it a few times. We'll do a little bit of a frame-by-frame-y style thing. We haven't done this for a while. They're sort of showing off one of the regions around one of the areas. We know, just like in Edge of the Mist, that it's themed. Like, there's 3 core keeps, and each one has its own theme and different things about them. We're kind of seeing majority of just one of those in the footage here. And so here we see kind of this Badlandsy looking area. I have to pause it very quickly. It's lots of short little shots that go black very quickly. So anyway, we've got this. We will see some asset reuse. I believe I've seen quite a few Silver Waste kind of assets, you know, these bamboo kind of pathways, and this is actually kind of reminiscent to me of the Zephyrite. But already you can just see, just from this one shot, how different this kind of environment is to the existing maps. Anyway, so we keep going. Try not to pause too much. Here we see the giant central area. We see just how huge it is. We're already quite low down before I managed to pause this shot, and as we look up, we can see all this stuff up here is still playable terrain. We can see some traversable platforms here that may break as people walk around on them, just like we get with Skyhammer. You can see a couple of golems here too, or just off in the distance, and presumably we can travel inside there. I don't know what they're defending necessarily, whether this is some kind of a capturable objective. You're going to find you're wondering that a lot with this new map, you know, how much of this is actually interacting with World vs. World mechanics. Here we find some kind of a tower. I would assume this is just like a tower, right? Here there's a giant hologram looking thing on the inside of it, but little more than that we can really see. Here we get another fly through. We get a supply depot pickup here. Looks like we've got a sentry stood quite casually. I hope, for what it's worth, that the sentries and many of the mechanics of this new map do draw from Edge of the Mist. A lot of people look at Edge of the Mist and say, hey, this is a bad map, I didn't enjoy it, and I think there's a segment of the core World vs. World audience out there who really like big open fights and open spaces, okay, and that's what they enjoy most, and perhaps they don't enjoy about Edge of the Mist that there are less locations for this to be possible, or that the mechanics themselves and the locations of the objectives don't kind of incentivize people pushing in together like that. And so a lot of people are saying, you know, Edge of the Mist is bad, and they don't want that to be such an influence for this new map. But I have to say I disagree. I really like the design of Edge of the Mist stuff. I think it really plays into what makes World vs. World so fun, as opposed to, say, like, TPVP. And no, it's not necessarily the game type, it's the fact that World vs. World is by its nature supposed to be asymmetrical, right? And so to have different keeps and environs like this that are jagged and have so much weighty uniqueness to them is actually really exciting to me. So, again, I want to see a lot of the Edge of the Mist stuff come forward, but I'm curious what you guys will think of the same kind of idea. We've also got something down here, but I'm not quite sure what it is. So we'll progress forward a little bit more, and they kind of fly through these canyons. Again, looks very dry-toppy here. I'm not sad about the, you know, the asset reuse, though. The map looks gorgeous. It kind of goes without saying, ArenaNet just make really pretty maps, let's be honest. And here, you know, we kind of come in quite high. This almost, to me, looks a lot like how the old Guild Wars 1 maps looked, where we had, you know, hard boundaries and you couldn't climb over cliffs. Will we be able to actually hop along all of these cliff faces? Is this where we're going to be able to encounter people and fight people? Like, that's very curious to me, because it seems kind of empty, right? But at the same time, you know, I don't think that the emptiness is necessarily a bad thing. We also get this kind of very intimidating looking location over here. We did kind of hear maybe a very slight hint in Angry Joe's interview with Colin Johansson that there could be some kind of dragon mechanic. A lot of people are really clinging to this this notion. So the story is, Colin said there's going to be loads of crazy stuff that happens in this world versus world map, and Joe says, oh, you know, what would be crazy is like a dragon attacking people. And then Colin gets a big smile on his face and says, that would be crazy, wouldn't it? It's definitely not confirmation. We could just be seeing some kind of similar-ish mechanic. Anyway, if you do buy that, this, to me, in my mind, would be kind of like the Dragon's Lair. So we'll progress along even further. They're kind of hinting off in the distance there. Here we get a very fiery area. Bit of a hint looking at some of the more vegetated areas on the map. And sort of perhaps we're looking at the boundary right now. And they're just sort of showing off the vast differences in the environment. This is probably my favorite shot of the trailer. Here we actually see some trebs, so we do see some World vs. World Siege going on here. And what they're actually doing is they're trebbing into this cliff. Now, if you guys remember, on that original PAX South trailer, we saw huge structures being formed out of cliff faces and out of rock walls. And here, this kind of excites me in the idea that maybe this is somehow destructible. Maybe for sieging this objective that's up here, perhaps all the way up this staircase, we actually can siege into the side of these locations to break our way through. Like, what a fascinating idea. This whole wall is somehow destructible. And that seems to be what they're hinting at, perhaps, unless some huge angle they can treb away from behind. But this looks really, really cool. And of course, we've got some players running along. Kind of a smallish man roaming group here. Actually, I feel like World vs. World, sort of, in my opinion, the perfect size of roaming groups in my mind would be somewhere around this. I'm not so sure I really enjoy, you know, the ATV blobs, but in this side you still feel like you contribute a lot, and you know, your screen doesn't get totally messy, while there's still big enough fights for it to feel, you know, very World vs. Worldy. Maybe this is a little bit on the small end. Anyway, so I will bring us along, and again, just think of the scale of this map here, guys. Just think of how huge this actually is. We're still only looking at one small section of the map. Here we got some people running up this staircase too. Again, like this cool idea that wherever you were to look in the map, you would find activity, you would find people doing stuff, not just 80% of all players concentrated in one small area. That's not what's so exciting about World vs. World to me. So here we can see quite clearly actual platform up here, some kind of sparks, I guess, and a long bridge up here too. Is this actually traversable? Are we still going higher? Is this all verticality? Like, a tour of this map is going to be unbelievable when it finally comes out. Here the camera is starting to tilt a little, but you can still see all the way down here. We've got even more. It's unbelievable, and again, this is potentially just a third of the map. Giant beetle at the very top. I doubt this will be like the dry top boss. I wonder how they're going to incentivize us to fight, you know, kind of big, dangerous enemies in this map. The amount of mechanical things that they could change are kind of unreal. So there you go. Now we're going to cut into this shot here, again, of another small-ish group. I do believe people have scrutinized this to see if there are specialization leaks and stuff in here. I don't think there are any. And these aren't like characters I think that we've recognized from previous trailers either. These guys are just kind of run along. A bit more of an open fieldy type area there. This reminds me very much of existing World vs. World stuff, you know, like these tents kind of flat open. Reminds me a bit of the south of the Eternal Battlegrounds, you know, kind of near where that Hylek camp is. It feels a bit reminiscent to me. I was actually disappointed to see that this felt very classic World vs. Worldy, in my opinion, but I'm sure maybe this will be something that actually excites those who are still super into the scene. As many of you guys know, I'm currently not. So we'll progress on a bit more. You can see a little bit more of the giant Ratassoum style cube. Here we can see again what is quite clearly looking to be another tower, and actually looks like the kind of tower we're going to be spiraling all the way up. Are there going to be different capture mechanics here, or is it still just going to be some kind of control point in the center? We'll see. And it looks very jumping puzzly as well, which of course World vs. World's never shied away from. This is a kind of an interesting shot here. We see these people running along, and this poor guy just gets knocked off by this. So I believe this is something we've been hearing about already. The idea is one of the keeps, if your server owns it, will give you like benefits and will alter the terrain. So this here is like if people own the wind or the air keep supposedly, this could be a mechanic that kind of unlocks. We're not in that region, but now all these additional traps are affecting people and providing hazards for your enemies. And so this guy actually gets knocked off. Seems like a pretty tame trap, to be honest. But then when you do look at these massive zergs and people just following Doritos instead of paying any attention, this kind of thing actually you shouldn't underestimate. This could knock more people off than you'd expect. You know, it's like when a commander jumps off of a cliff and actually half the zerg ends up jumping off with them. People have a tendency to switch off their brain in large zerg environments, and these just small subtle things to keep that kind of minute-to-minute gameplay, as they were kind of discussing, very active, could be good. It means that even if you are still zerging around, because of just small touches like this in the environment, World vs. World's a bit more engaging and keeps you that bit more engaged. So there they actually come into a conflict, into a fight as well. I believe this shot we're actually seeing now is an alternate angle of something we've seen before. And our first example of like a full-on like World vs. World looking gate here, a different skin on it at very least. And that's eventually how you would push in, I suppose. So we've got a trailer mostly focusing on one of these regions. I'm curious whether we'll get some more teasers of the other ones, or we're just going to get the full-blown experience at Resd. Now, I did see an interesting comment from someone on Reddit I wanted to bring up, and this is the idea of Fortune's Veil. So what you're currently looking at right now, guys, is an unimplemented PvP / like World vs. World map that was data mined a long time ago, back in the 1st April, I believe, since the game's release. And so you can see it here. It had a few markings on it. It had, you know, the red entry, the green entry, the blue entry. This is what makes people say, you know, this could be World vs. World quite clearly. You got the hub forest up here, the hub 01 keep, and some people, the comment that I saw was basically someone saying, hey, look, this feels and looks a lot like, you know, the hub 01 keep kind of area. Now, this map was called Fortune's Veil. It eventually seems to have been rolled into what Edge of the Mist became. We got some kind of giant dam here. This has always been really fun for me to look at, and it's kind of sad, in my opinion, that it never ended up becoming a thing for the game in general. But yeah, I wonder how much inspiration we will be seeing from this map when we go to the new one. But you know, just the age of this image as well kind of does show you they've been playing with new World vs. World maps and designs and getting quite far in them also, it would seem, for a long time now, and hopefully everything they've learned will be coming to fruition there. Alright, so we talked quite a lot there about the new World vs. World Borderlands teaser. I will say the World Tournament Series finals did end. A spoiler if you want to watch it for yourself to find out who won. But the finals were very interesting. The Abjured actually got swept by Orange Logo in like a disgusting 4 matches in a row win. It was so ludicrous, actually. At least the casters got to play off of it for a bit. It's one of those sad things, though, where you kind of look at a game trying to be esports, very exciting or whatever, and then you realize that there's still such a one-sided matchup at the end of the game, and it's not something anyone ever expected. But for outsiders, people just looking into the scene, they're going to see that, in my opinion, and they're going to think, oh, this means there's not a very big player base, not many teams entered, and so these guys were just the clear winners. You know, that there's too small of a population to have had some truly competitive environment at the end of things. But despite that, there were some great games before the finals. Overall, I think it was pretty good, and as far as I'm aware, the views on it were better than the first WTS. So, and some of those might have been people looking for the World vs. World Borderlands. But yeah, that was the result, and overall, a really, really fantastic event. So let's finish the video off talking about the beta signups. So I remember so clearly when Guild Wars 2 was first releasing, and they announced the Guild Wars 2 betas, I did this crazy small video saying, hey betas, go sign up, just because I wanted to get those extra views on this massive excitement. Well, they are doing a process we have seen them do before, where all you really have to do is sign up for their newsletter, and I would recommend that you sign up for the newsletter on the same email account your game client uses. Now, they haven't said anywhere that that's important, but they do specifically say in their post that they'll draw their initial pool of testers from among active players and loyal customers who are also subscribed to the newsletter. So don't subscribe to it on some random email they won't be able to associate with you. Subscribe to it on your account that has, you know, 10,000 hours and 25,000 achievement points and blah 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 blah, and, you know, has left all these wonderful posts on the forums, and then you'll probably have your best chance of getting in. The cool thing about the closed beta, at least for me as a content creator, is if I do manage to get in, there will be no non-disclosure agreements for the beta test. So those maybe who don't understand this completely, a closed beta means not everybody gets to play the initial betas. Not everyone gets to play Heartathons, but some people will. And for those some people, there is like no big secrecy act or anything. You can just create as many videos on it as you like. You can stream it, you can talk about it, you can bash it, you can do whatever you want if you manage to get in. So even if you guys don't manage to get in, there will be plenty of content creators out there who hopefully will for themselves, and you will still be able to enjoy, at least on some level, a bunch of the Heartathon stuff. We don't know how expansive the beta is going to be. Obviously, they're not going to give us just the whole damn game, but I must say I'm very excited to go back into kind of that beta cycle once again, where we have like a beta weekend or something, and then at the end we've got some big event where everybody gets killed by giants in Divinity's Reach or whatever. So this should be very cool, and it's great news. Again, just make sure you sign up to the newsletter. There will be a link in the description if you want to go to this post for yourself. Oh, and you must also be 13 years or older. That's pretty much it. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I will be talking about Masteries and the Revenant and stuff with this extra footage I've got from last week very, very shortly. So do stay tuned for that. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.